Demon AI. Demon AI.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really powerful piece that one of you actually shared with us.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
It's a reflection called The Madness of the Mob, Crucifying Jesus Again and Again. It's by Jamin Bradley.
Ah, Jamin Bradley. Interesting figure. Pastor, theologian.
Right, musician, author, calls himself a nerd and an exorcist too, which is quite a mix.
Definitely. And this piece was from when?
He posted on his website on Good Friday, April 18th, 2025.
Okay, Good Friday. Makes sense given the title. So what's the core idea?
Well, what immediately grabbed me, and I think what you'll find really thought-provoking,
Yeah.
is the central question he kind of throws down.
Which is?
Are we, like today, still capable of the same kind of collective madness that led to the crucifixion?
Wow. Okay, so he's drawing parallels between that mob and other events.
Exactly. Some really striking and honestly quite disturbing parallels between that moment and other times, other places where groups committed horrific acts, even up to the present.
Right. That's heavy stuff.
It is. So our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack his arguments, look at the examples he uses.
And just try to understand the perspective he's offering on Good Friday and how it echoes, right?
Precisely. And he starts, naturally, with Good Friday itself. The crucifixion by a crowd, Roman times. That's the bedrock.
The historical anchor for the whole reflection. Makes sense.
And from there, he starts building these connections. He suggests that the spirit behind that event, it hasn't gone away.
Okay, so not just a one-off historical tragedy, but something that can resurface.
That's his argument, that the capacity for that kind of, well, mob violence is still latent.
And does he give examples of it resurfacing?
Oh, absolutely. And he doesn't hold back. He talks about the Rwandan genocide.
Right. A clear example of mass violence.
And he includes this chilling anecdote about a Hutu mother. She killed her Tutsi neighbor's children.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And this wasn't a stranger. He says she considered the neighbor like family.
So what changed? How could that happen?
According to the piece, she was told by the government, they're the enemy, given a weapon. And she just did it.
That's terrifying. It really shows how perception can be manipulated, doesn't it? The power of that collective push.
Yeah, totally. And I think for you listening, that's a key takeaway from Bradley's use of this example, how fast that shift can happen.
And what's insightful is how he uses such an extreme case to make these, seemingly impossible acts feel a bit less abstract. Does he mention others?
Yes, he layers on other major historical points, Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, obviously.
A cornerstone example of state-sponsored collective violence.
And also the American lynching trees, the white mobs involved in that history.
Okay, so Rwanda, the Holocaust, lynchings, he's putting these side by side with the crucifixion mob.
Yeah, he's suggesting that looking across time helps us see a disturbing common thread, a pattern.
A pattern of collective dehumanization leading to violence.
It's almost like he's saying the specifics change who, where, when, but the engine driving it, that spirit of the mob, is frighteningly persistent.
Okay, that's a powerful historical argument. Does he offer any kind of explanation for why this persists?
He does, and this is where it gets quite theological, maybe a bit challenging.
Okay, let's hear it.
He puts forward this idea that until humanity really embraces Jesus as king and God, we will always naturally default to the worship of the kind of kings and gods that are capable of racism, wars, insurrections, concentration camps, lynching trees, and crosses.
Wow. Okay, unpack that a bit. So flawed worship leads to flawed actions.
Sort of. Think of it like this. If a society values power or dominance or exclusion, worships those things in his terms,
then violence becomes almost an expression of those values, not just random evil.
that seems to be his point. It's not just about individual bad people, but about what a society collectively holds up as important as divine, maybe?
So it's a societal pull driven by what we ultimately value that can lead to these terrible outcomes.
That's the idea. And within that framework, his interpretation of Jesus on the cross becomes really specific.
How so? Beyond the historical event.
He sees it as Jesus actively standing with the oppressed, an act of solidarity.
Okay.
And he uses this quote, which is really impactful. You are capable of this.
You are capable of this. Who is saying that? Jesus.
Bradley suggests it's almost what Jesus' outstretched arms are saying. Not just, I am suffering, but also humanity, you are capable of inflicting this.
Oof. That's intense, a recognition of our potential for cruelty.
Yeah, it's confronting, isn't it? Acknowledging that capacity within us all.
Definitely. And does he bring this into the present day? Or is it mostly historical and theological?
No, he absolutely brings it forward. He states pretty clearly that these crosses, mobs, and spiritual energies are still alive today.
Okay, so the core challenge then becomes recognizing them.
Exactly. That's the challenge he lays down for us, for you listening, to develop the ability to see these modern forms.
Which raises the question, what do they look like today? He doesn't spell out specific current events in this piece.
Not in detail in this short reflection, no. But the implication is strong. He's urging us to look critically at our own world.
To see where we might be, perhaps unknowingly participating in that same dynamic. Metaphorically crucifying Jesus through others' suffering.
Precisely. And he connects it right back to the Bible verse.
Let me guess. Whatever you did for the least of these.
You got it. As you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me.
Right. So the ethical imperative is to see the divine, or at least our shared humanity, in the marginalized, the victims of injustice.
That's what it really drives home for you. Yes. Recognize the victim, recognize the pattern.
It helps to know a bit about his background, too, where he's coming from.
Good point. As we said, he's an active pastor. He has a master's in theology and social justice.
So he's grounded in both theological study and community work.
Right. And he mentions his interest in obscure topics, which suggests he's not afraid to tackle difficult, uncomfortable stuff.
And he's involved with a few specific churches or organizations.
Yeah, 1208 Greenwood Church, Dirt Church, JXN, and David's Promise are mentioned on his site.
Okay, gives a bit more context.
So let's try and pull the main threads together for everyone listening.
Okay.
Bradley uses Good Friday not just as a historical marker, but as a symbol of a recurring pattern: mob violence.
Fueled by a certain spirit, as he calls it.
Right. And he uses those heavy historical examples, Rwanda, the Holocaust, lynchings, to show this potential for collective madness isn't just ancient history.
And the theological argument ties it to flawed worship, what we value as a society.
Yeah, suggesting this tendency comes from valuing the wrong things. And Jesus on the cross is both solidarity with victims and a mirror to our own capacity for this.
A stark mirror reflecting both good and terrible potential.
And the big challenge he leaves us with is that these dynamics, these mobs, these crosses, they're still here.
So the call to action is recognize them, resist them, don't participate in crucifying Jesus again through the suffering of others today.
Exactly. It really does make you pause, doesn't it? The idea that this madness of the mob isn't locked away in the past.
It's deeply unsettling, but maybe necessary to consider.
So maybe the thought to leave you with as you reflect on this, think about Bradley's analysis, those historical examples.
Yeah.
In what ways, maybe subtle, maybe not so subtle, might that spirit of the mob show up in our world right now?
And what does it really take for us, individually and collectively, to truly recognize it when we see it?
That's the question. It definitely goes beyond our deep dive today, but it's something worth mulling over.
We shared the fire, we shared the land, watched the cattle roam and stand. But whispers came like winds that change and told me things had rearranged. The spirit of the crowd still cries in shadows where compassion dies. We trade our hearts for hollow cheers and lose the love we held for years. From ancient hills to modern towns, the same old voices still resound. And every time we turn away, we let the light of hope decay. The spirit of the crowd still cries where fear and judgment cloud our eyes. But Christ still stands with arms stretched wide to show the mercy we deny. Oh, teach us how to see again the sacred in our fellow men, to never follow shifting blame or light a match in heaven's name. grace still shines in wounded skies. So may we walk the narrow way and see our God in all today.
Demon AI. Demon AI.